This episode of the Hunt Stealth podcast is brought to you by ReadyWise Outdoor. When you're chasing adventure, you need energy you can count on. ReadyWise Pro Meals are packed with over 30 grams of protein and 500 plus calories per serving to keep you energized no matter the terrain. From the protein-packed breakfast skillet to the Thai coconut cashew curry, these lightweight, freeze-dried meals are ready in minutes. Made in the USA, ReadyWise is built for hunters and explorers just like you. Visit ReadyWiseOutdoor.com and use promo code RYAN20 to save 20% off your next order. Elevate your next adventure with blue coolers from Cata Sports, designed to keep your food and drinks ice cold no matter where the journey takes you. With top-tier installation, rugged durability, and built-in wheels for easy transport, these coolers are the ultimate sidekick for all of your outdoor adventures. Best of all, they deliver unbeatable performance at a price that won't break the bank. Head on over to catasports.com and use promo code RYAN10 to save 10% off your order.
You're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast with Ryan Uffens, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the wild. Whether you're an aspiring hunter or an adventurer seeking the untamed, together we'll explore the strategies and stories that lead to success in the great outdoors.
Welcome to the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Today we're sitting down with Nate Saunders on IG. You can find him at Southern Fold. Nate, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.
Excited to get a chance to talk to you. So as I scroll through your Instagram profile, you seem like you've got a lot on your plate, but tell me, what is it that you do for a living?
I'm a software engineer. I worked in defense contracting. I've done pretty much ranges from networking to software development, but now I'm full stack as a senior software engineer.
That's awesome, man. I think it's fun to hear about some of those backgrounds because a lot of people just think that everybody just gets to hunt 24/7, and some of us have jobs that we have to work at 24/7. But that's awesome. How long have you been doing that now?
Since 2015. Since 2015, about 12 years. Most of the time, though, from 2015, it was more of internships and working your way until I graduated from college in 18. And then from then on, it's just been same career path so
just
far.
Grinding away at it, huh?
Yeah. I wish I could find a way to get it out in the stand so I could stay in the stand while working.
I'm sure that day's coming. I think at some point we're going to have AI doing a lot of the work. And if you can be the guy that figures out how to tap into that, you can be out in the stand letting the AI think that you're sitting back at the desk doing all the work. But that's cool.
Hey, you have Starlink on the top.
Oh yeah. That's what we need to do. We need to get old Elon to get with like a Starlink that can just like attach to the back of your pack. You don't even have to like hold it up. It just rolls with you. Then you can start doing like live streaming hunts. That would be nice, huh?
There we go.
Hey, you also have a family farm, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about that. What are you raising? Like, what are you doing there?
Sure. So this is actually the second family farm. We had a family farm in West Virginia, and we didn't do much of the farming ourselves. It was mainly leased land for agriculture mainly, and we did do cows to start. And then my family moved to Tennessee, and while I was in college, or right as I graduated college, and afterwards decided to follow them here as well. And my wife's family lives outside of Nashville as well. So then we got a second farm, traded in the West Virginia farm, then got a farm in Tennessee. And it's only agriculture. After having cows on a farm for a couple of years and seeing what it does to the land as people who didn't grow up in cattle, we were like, let's just stick to agriculture.
It's a lot of work. My cousin who owns Rebel Ranch up in Laramie, Wyoming, he's got a bed and breakfast in that people can go check out. Like if anyone's interested and you want to go kind of have like a ranch experience, he raises bison on his. And you go to rebelranchyo.com. Little shout out for Josh there. But yeah, he's raising cattle, and we went up and helped him harvest a bison this fall, one of his bulls. And yeah, those animals are amazing. But yeah, cattle in particular, I mean, you get so many of them too. They do kind of just beat the land up, something fierce.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, well, that's cool though that you're a hunter, you're a software engineer, and helping run a family farm. That's cool stuff, man.
It's more of I would say hobby farm, just so because all my buddies that are real farmers, they call us a hobby farmer. It's not a full time gig per se, just so for my buddies listening.
There, yeah. So they don't hit you up in the thread saying, "Hold on a second, there, Nate."
Yeah. Don't claim to be a true farmer. You ain't up at 4 a.m. every day feeding cows.
That's wild. That's good. Well, glad we set the record straight. So, Nate, hey, jumping into the hunting side of things,
Sure.
Tell me kind of about like your first hunt that you remember doing.
Yeah. So I grew up around hunting my entire life.
This was in West Virginia?
West Virginia, Maryland area, right in that the western part of Maryland, in between West Virginia and Maryland there.
Okay.
And my grandfather started with hunting, and he's still alive too. So he's been my mentor. But he took my dad hunting, all of my uncles hunting, and it became a family tradition. So I don't really remember this, but there's pictures of me standing on elk antlers and deer antlers, holding up antlers as like a 2 and 3 year old. So I always grew up around hunting. And I always wanted to go. And I kept getting told, you got to wait until you're at least 10 years old, because I kind of get it, firearms and the pressure. You got to be quiet, got to sit still. And I was a kid who was super active, super hyper, couldn't sit still. So
that's probably the biggest thing is your grandpa, and everyone's like, dude, this kid's gonna scare everything away, man. But you get a little bit more mature in your age.
Oh yeah. Well, then it got to a point. I hit 10. I'm like, I'm ready to go hunting. Let's do it. So my grandfather decided, all right, I'll take him hunting. And I remember being excited. I went over to my grandparents' house. I stayed the night there. I didn't have any hunting clothes. I had these old camo jeans, a jacket that my grandmother let me wear. I even forgot to bring boots. I mean, I was 10 years old, but I forgot to bring boots. So I'm wearing my grandmother's boots because they fit me. They're like rubber boots. And we went and hunt at a family farm, a family friend's farm.
Sure.
And sat out in a ground blind. And I remember we first got out there. We sat down in the ground blind. And he went over, my grandfather went over, and I shot prior to this. He had me shooting a .223. And so I was all prepared. I knew how to shoot. We go and we sit in the ground blind, and it's like right at daylight. And what happened was, as soon as that happened, I don't remember seeing it, but a big buck walks right in front of the stand. And I remember seeing the rack, like, wow, that's a buck, like 10 yards in front. I pull up the gun and I go, I can't see it. And my grandfather's sitting there like, come on, shoot it, shoot it. And I go, I can't see it. I can't see it. He goes, you got to shoot it. It's going away. It passed in front. I learned my first lesson. You turn down the scope from 9 to 3 power until you know what you want to shoot. Because I could not find that deer in the scope at 10 yards away.
Just sitting there picking up.
Oh, yeah.
Just blur.
It was just a black dot. Couldn't see anything. I probably was on it. I just couldn't tell.
Yeah.
It was a painful lesson.
I'm sure he gave you a pass, being as you were only 10 years old.
He was nice enough, but he goes, that's how you learn. You're going to learn at some point. Better learn now than later. And I got fortunate.
That's a good note for me, because I've yet to do any rifle hunting. Everything I've done is just been archery.
Right on.
So that's I'll make a mental note of that when I head out and when I do my first rifle hunt, to make sure get that scope dialed in until I find what I want to zone in on.
That's it. That's rifle. I grew up only on rifle hunting, so I just got into archery a couple of years ago, and I'm still very, very, green around the ear still with archery, and it is a whole different world.
Oh yeah. Rifle. Yeah. So did you end up ever get anything with your grandpa then?
Yeah. So I got lucky. We sat out there for a couple more hours, and the dinkiest little 5-point walked out at like 120 yards. I'm shaking to death. I'm lined up on it. I can't hold still. And I'm in it, and they pull the trigger, and I pop my head up right away, looking around like, where is it at? And by grace of God, I got so lucky. I just barely clipped its artery in its neck when we found it, because we saw it run and go down, barely clipped the artery in the neck. And I had a little baby 5-point there. And to this day, it's still, I don't think I could ever replicate that shot. Praise to God, I got lucky and took a deer. I shouldn't have hit it. I shot it so high up on the neck, and I was aiming for its body.
Well, how cool is that like your first hunting experience was able to be with your grandpa? I mean, that's one of the things that that's so interesting is like I didn't grow up, like no one in my family hunted. So
Right.
it was my son who got me. He's like, "Hey, let's get into archery and go do that." So I think that's super cool that you're able to do that. I've got one granddaughter right now, and I told my wife, I'm like, I can't wait to take her out, and she's like, "That's not going to happen." They're upstairs. Earlier today, they were just talking that she's 2. They're signing her up for her first dance class, and they're going to foo her up like to the T. But anyway, it's the first of many grandkids. I'm sure eventually we'll get a grandson in there, and then we can take him out. But that's super cool. That's awesome that was your first experience with your grandpa.
Thank you. And I got any day now, basically. My wife's due for our first child, which is a daughter. So I'm going to try and turn her into a little hunter as well.
Well, you got your wife into hunting, right? So like you got that going for you. Tell me tell me how that got started.
So my little background, my wife is a city girl. She's grown up in Massachusetts, Boston, New York. She's lived in close to outside of Arlington, Virginia, Utah, Salt Lake City. So she grew up a city girl. We met in college. And she knew enough about me to know that if this relationship would ever go anywhere, she's going to have to either be okay with me hunting. And she figured, well, I might as well understand it to see why he's into it so much. So I took her out shooting ahead of time. And I think that's very key for any new hunter. Shoot and practice shooting and knowing safety, hunter safety, well before you even attempt to get in the field. So I had her go through the hunter safety course. I had her shoot a couple times. I had her work in, understanding what hunting's about, watching videos, because there's a lot of resources, YouTube and such, that to understand what hunting's about. And then
was she your wife at this point?
No, she was.
Oh, so you were like really testing the waters, huh?
Yeah. I want to see
how much does this gal like me?
She was willing to do it. I mean, she went hunting with my grandfather. Yeah. I went out, bought her all the stuff. I figured if she's going to give it an opportunity, I'm going to invest in her and get her some hunting clothes and really get it set up right. And she was willing to take this 270 out I had. Say what? Say again?
I said, not like your first hunting experience where you're piecing together stuff to go out hunting in. You're like,
I learned from my mistakes, so she didn't have to make them.
What's your wife's name?
Alyssa.
Alyssa. Okay.
Shout out Alyssa Saunders.
So you had Alyssa out there. You took her shooting. What was the first hunting experience like when she actually went out into the field with you? I mean, was it with you or were you taking her?
I took her out into the field for her first time hunting, and she sat in the same blind as me. And we have 2 big, tall redneck blinds on the farm at different ends. So our farm's a lot of hills and fields. So you can shoot
in Tennessee, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then you can shoot up to, I think the farthest shot I can get at the farm is maybe 800 yards on a deer.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can shoot long distance. And, but we were fortunate enough, her first time out, we're sitting in the stand. It's cold, but she's having a good time. She's seeing deer move. And this little doe comes up at a perfect 100 yards straight in front, broadside. And this is opening day rifle season. I got my grandfather hunted, my cousin, my father. And we used to have a rule. Don't shoot a doe on opening day morning because the bucks are going to be moving. Well, it's her first time. I was excited. She was excited. She goes, I kind of want to shoot it. And I'm like, do you want to take this deer? She goes, yeah, I want to take it. I'm like, are you sure? There could be a buck that comes by. No, I want this one. I want to shoot it. I'm like, all right. We got her lined up on it. And again, first time really shooting at something. So she got nervous and she takes a shot and she misses. it shoots just over top of the deer. And I could see it because I'm watching through my binoculars, and I see that dirt kick up behind it. And so she's still like, did I hit it? She's looking up. I'm like, no, put another shell in. So I've had her practice enough where she racked another shell, and I'm like, put it on safety so that you're ready. You're not ready to fire yet, so put it back on safety. Get lined up on it again. I said, come on now, take your time. In through the nose, exhale. On the exhale, squeeze. Don't pull that trigger. You pulled it last time. Squeeze. When she lines up again, pulls it. Beautiful gut shot. Beautiful gut shot. I see it kick, and I'm like, it's going to die. I see it run. It goes about 50 yards and then lays down. And she goes, did I get it? I look like I got it. And I said, you got it. And I saw where it hit, and I'm like, oh, we're going to have to let it lay. So she did take it. We walked up on it, and she learned a couple lessons that day. But it was a beautiful moment. It really was.
That's awesome. She liked it enough. Sounds like she's going to go. Has she been out again, or?
Oh, yeah. She went out the year after. I took her out again since rifle's what she's comfortable with. She hasn't got into bow hunting or muzzleloader yet, which I probably could take her to that. But right now it's just rifle. She hunted the second year and took a 5-point, but this year she couldn't. Her, with being pregnant and all, percussion of the noise.
That's your fault. That's your fault. You couldn't take her out this year.
I timed the pregnancy perfect. Kids do after, because hunting season's out now for deer. Yeah. So I got lucky. No birth during season.
Okay. Well, congratulations, man. That's exciting that you got a little daughter on the way, and you got your spouse into hunting with you. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, unfortunate. Is your wife getting into hunting as well, or?
No. She, my wife, she doesn't mind that I hunt. She doesn't love the time that we take away, but she's getting to love it. But yeah, no, my wife is also a city girl, and she is a big fan of like the sundresses and all that stuff. So not not a big hunter. She did say though that she wants to start fly fishing. So we're going to go out and start fly fishing. She actually, she's probably going to get mad that I share this story, but she talks in her sleep sometimes. Normally it's like spiders falling down from the ceiling. And I'll kind of just play along. Like I'll be awake, like I've got the TV on. She's been out for an hour or so, and she starts talking. But she, I had oftentimes, like if I'm tired, I'll put on A River Runs Through It. And it like just throw that on and I'll fall asleep to it, set the timer. But I think we had that show playing, but she kind of like woke up and she's like, fly fishing in a dress, sold. I was like dying. I'm like, what? She said, yeah. She's like, fly fishing in a dress, sold. She's like, I can do that. And so I told her about it the next morning, and she's like, that would actually be fun. So yeah. So she went out and we got her some fly fishing stuff, and she's got the sundress she wants to go out in. So we're gonna let her go fly fishing in her dress this summer. Go do that. But yeah, as far as like the other hunting stuff, no. I don't even know if she's going to eat the meat, but
I think
I've tried to get her to eat some elk meat. She's starting to warm up to it a little bit, but we'll see.
Right. I think that's what I tried that with my wife to start, and she doesn't not yet enjoy straight up deer meat, just putting salt, pepper, throw it on the grill. Right. I've had to kind of ease her into it with, okay, she'll eat back straps if I season it really well, or she'll do ground deer if I put a lot of pork and beef fat with it. That gamey taste, which I don't. Maybe I'm different, or some people don't taste it. I don't taste that quote unquote gamey taste. She calls it fuzzy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And it's weird because my wife is like a complete health nut. Like she's like got rid of like anything with like red food dyes, like anything that has, like I'm sitting here drinking a Ghost energy drink, and if she were to walk in and see that, I'd panic a little bit. But yeah, she eats super clean and healthy. She likes her chocolate, even the dark chocolate. But she wants, I mean, we go to the store, like she buys everything organic, whether it's like fruits, vegetables, meat. And I'm like, honey, like when it comes to elk meat, it does not get any more organic. I mean, they're up like in the hills, like they're eating like the best stuff. And I mean, I think she'll come around to it, but we'll see. It, I don't know. Yeah, some people just get really weird about that, and I'm like, "You're okay eating a burger," and I'm like, most of these animals, like you say, like you worked on a cattle farm. It's like they're not ideal living conditions
No.
that a lot of these animals unfortunately live in. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, but I think they'll come around. I've yet to take anything, so I don't really have much elk meat. I mean, I've had some people that have given me stuff, and she's like, nah. We Sally, a gal that I work with who owns an advertising agency, she's like, sure, her husband took one this year, and she's got me some like breakfast sausage, and they put together in some
Right.
underground stuff. So I'm gonna working her into it, but yeah, it's some people.
Right.
I think they overthink it. You know what I mean? And it's just
Right.
I don't
Like
know.
if they didn't know what it was, they would enjoy it. If they didn't know,
Yeah,
like, oh, that's elk that came from a field. You probably told her. I think if I tried to my wife, it came from a farm. I think she may have tried it better.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Oh, yeah. This is great. I love it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'll cross that bridge once I have like a freezer full of elk meat. We'll see what happens. Otherwise, I'm going to eat like a king for a while. So
There you
that'll
go.
be good.
Do you process your own?
I haven't, not yet. I mean, like I said, I started hunting 4 years ago, and my boy and I, we've been close a couple times to like letting the arrow fly, but we haven't done that yet. But
Okay.
this year is going to be the year we're both gonna take down elk. So since starting this podcast, I've had a couple of guys that are like, "All right, we're gonna take you out and we're gonna get you on a bull. We're gonna pull one in, drop it on your lap. So all you have to do is not miss." But yeah, we haven't missed anything. We just haven't had great shots. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it'll come, but.
That's what's important. I think you're showing real good intuition too to early stages of hunting, which is you're not rushing any shots, you're not taking unnecessary shots. It's all about a perfect kill. It's perfect as you can. Obviously, mistakes happen in the field, even with
Yeah.
rifle hunting, but taking the
Yeah,
right.
it is. It is interesting that I remember coming home. It was like my very first elk hunt, and I had this bull 30 yards, and I just didn't have a shot on vitals, and so I let it go. And I came home, and I was like thrilled at the end of it. Like, I mean, I was bummed that I didn't get a shot on vitals, but I was hooked. Like, that was my first experience, and I was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And I'm like, I got to get in better shape so I can handle like the backcountry. And it's just like there's been so much that it's changed me as a person. It's changed me, professionally. It's a fun thing to be a part of. It's a super cool community, and people are super close and encouraging. And it's like some of the stuff that you and I were talking about a little bit before we started recording, which we'll get into. But anyway, enough about me. Do you process your own meat?
I started getting into it this year. I used to never. And I mean, I've been hunting for, what am I, 27, 17 years. And I just got into processing myself this year. I did a little bit last year. I did 3, but they were terrible process jobs. And I learned from my mistakes and trying to work.
What's the hardest part? Because I haven't even like got to that point. I mean, when I get my first bull, or if I get a doe or a cow tag next year, like I want the meat in the freezer, so I'm going to take whatever. But
Right.
I'm going to have somebody process that. But when someone decides to start processing their own meat, like what were some of the challenges that you're like, hey, I learned from this, I'll do differently?
Oh, definitely the first one is not getting hair all over the meat. That is the biggest problem I ran into when I started out is I get hair all over the meat. And I still do now. I'm getting better at it. But
Nate,
understanding
dude,
how
I
to
hate to
cut.
say it to you, but that might be why your wife says it tastes a little fuzzy.
Without a question. I tried peeling it out. I started soaking it in water and stuff, but
Yeah,
Man,
once it
it
gets
is.
on.
Oh, it's so hard to get off. It is a pain,
Okay.
but that's been my biggest problem. The second one was starting out was not wasting anything and getting cutting it up to the point where I'm getting everything I need off the bone and knowing what meat pieces to cut off and where to cut along it. So I've been watching like uh, Meat Brothers, like the
Okay.
Butcher Brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
Meet Your Maker, I think is their company name. But the Butcher Brothers, I've watched a lot of their videos. Steve Ranella has a really good one on how to skin a deer, and then
Mhm.
once you have it skinned. So I haven't tried his skinning method where you hook it up to a tree and then you put the rock method, fold over the cape, and then pull it with a winch off your side by side or Polaris.
I haven't
So I
seen
haven't
that.
tried that.
I'll have to go look that
Oh, it's
up.
cool. Yeah, yeah. You hook the deer up to a tree by the I want to say he does it by the neck, and then he cuts it at the top of the neck around,
Just kind of
folds
cakes
down
it.
it. Yeah, yeah, and he folds it down, and he folds the cape over top of like a rock, and then he wraps a rope around it, hooks it up to his winch, and then he'll just back away with the winch, and then it just pulls all the skin down off of it, and then just comes off.
So he
It's
doesn't
pretty
have
cool.
somebody there like trying to like fillet it off.
No,
It's just let gravity and the side by side do its thing, huh?
yeah,
Okay.
and that's just skinning it. But I mean, like it's pretty
Right.
cool. I haven't tried it yet, but I've been
Mhm.
cutting it away myself and just peeling it down. I've seen videos of guys you cut away and then you push it down and off.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
we when we went up and harvested that bison, um, that bull that my cousin had, it was like that's what we did. I mean, it was like a constant.
Yeah,
It took us hours, man, to get that thing skinned and
that's different. That's what I
that
want to
was
know. Did you guys have to get a tractor out there? Because a
we
bison,
did.
man,
We had a backhoe that we had hooked it up to, so we hooked it up by its rear legs, and
holy
they
crap.
had seen a new method that they wanted to try, and they said if you do it this way, like the guts just fall out. And anyway, it didn't work exactly as the YouTube video had said that it would work, but. Uh, but that's the thing is like that's the thing about hunting and like these different methods. It's like there's probably some step that we missed that would have had it go exactly as planned. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it's just, I mean, those bison are so big and their skin
Oh,
is
they're
so
massive.
stinking thick. When we had that hide off, um, it probably was like it was easily 100 pounds. I mean, when we picked that thing up, I was like, holy cow. I mean, it was, and that was only half of it. That was only half of it that we had kept. But yeah, it was that was a process for sure. But yeah, we did. We got the tenderloins out and threw them right on the grill and started cooking that up while we were there. So it was
That's that.
a cool, super cool experience. But yeah, that was like my first experience like harvesting an animal. So
Really
I think
nice.
I think it's like all blue sky from here. I mean, we figured out how to get that by, and I mean, I helped very, very little. I ended up just being like a counterweight because we had this like toe straps hooked to the head. We were
Hmm.
trying to pull the head up because the forklift was as high as it could possibly go, and we were trying to get the head off. And anyway, I'm like this counterweight, like leaning, trying to pull. It was. We've got videos. We're putting a video together of that experience, but
Definitely.
it was a job
That's,
for sure. And we had the easy part, but it was, man. Those are a hardy animal for sure. Super
yeah.
super cool experience to be part of. So
My father took a moose in Newfoundland couple, I say couple, a good many years back, not like maybe less than a decade ago, but he went to Newfoundland, took a moose, and he got video of it. And this moose, one he shot wasn't antlers, not major, but the video of it walking up on you, it's just, they're different. Those things are massive, massive creatures. And they were in a place where you quarter it up and then you got to pretty much walk it out before you can get to a place where you can get a side by side in because it's all swamp and marshland.
That's
It's,
wild.
I mean, they're just massive creatures.
That's wild. That's super cool. Yeah, they're.
I've never done.
I mean, yeah, dude. God's made some like incredible animals, and I mean, the bison's like the largest mammal, that walks,
Mhm.
here in the United States. But it's a those moose. I think of that photo Donnie Vincent has with that moose he took up in Maine. Have you seen that? Dude,
I
this
don't know if I
thing
have.
spread is like I feel like he's walking with it on the back of he's got it on his pack. I mean, the thing looks like it is I
I'm
couldn't
gonna
even
pull.
imagine, like, I mean, it doesn't even show like the whole. I think he's releasing. Like, I know he's doing a video. He's doing his first film at the Hunt Expo
I've
out
seen
here.
this.
But did you
Yeah,
did
I've
you find
seen
it?
this. Yeah, I've seen this on social media. I saw it on Instagram. I didn't know that was Donnie Vincent, but I've seen this picture. It's
Yeah.
this one right here. Oh,
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
That's I've
looking at that,
seen
and
that.
I can only imagine
Right.
what that freaking like the rest of that bull's body looked like.
Oh,
So hopefully, yeah, it was fun talking with him. He said he has enough film that he's recorded to do one film a year for the next 10 years.
that's
So he
amazing.
didn't record anything else. So it's going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see what he decides to roll out with. I'm looking forward next month to seeing the film that he's going to release for the first time since
Oh yeah.
I think it was 2020 is his last film that he released. That was The Winds of Adak, but pretty cool. Yeah, I can only
Yeah.
dream of doing. Of like, I mean, I hope at some point I'm able to do something like that, take an animal like that. But in the meantime, I'm just enjoying the journey and trying to learn.
So what's your dream hunt then? If you had to pick one hunt and like you're like, this is the last hunt I ever get to do, money's no object. This is my dream. I've always wanted to do this. This is it. You ever
I
thought
haven't
about it?
I haven't really thought about it. If I'm being honest, I'm just still dreaming about getting like my first bull.
I get that.
Here in
Yeah.
I'm in Utah, so it's like getting that first bull. I think a cool hunt. Quinn, my buddy, who's a partner with Hunt Stealth, he and I've talked a long time about going and taking like a red stag. I think those
Oh,
things, like hearing those things roar, I think that would
yeah.
definitely be that's like a bucket list item for me. Like that's the only one outside of like getting an elk that I've kind of talked about. Super geeked up right now to go out and take a mountain lion. I think that would be a lot of fun for sure. Um,
Yeah.
Again, Donnie Vincent, like he's like his photos are so all the stuff that he does is like epic. But I don't know if you saw that one where he had that big old mountain lion on his back. It's like the snow's falling. I'm like, dude, that would be pretty cool. I mean, I think it would be fun to go get a mountain lion. I mean, you're using dogs and that. It
Yeah.
I don't know,
You got to
but
run
I
dogs.
think a red stag would be a ton of fun. I mean, hearing those things
That'd be
roar. I mean, it's like that sounds like if I were to hear that in the wild, I would think that was like a T-Rex or something. I mean, if somebody hasn't heard a red stag roar, you should go like Google it
it's the
because
coolest. It has
yeah,
the coolest call next to elk. It's right there with elk. With when they're up that close and personal and they
they're
bugle,
relative of the elk. Yeah,
so cool. Yeah.
yeah, but it's deep. I mean, it's almost like a lion's like roar slash like the gargle that I don't even know how to explain it, but it's yeah. I mean, I think for me that would probably be at the top of the list. I think it would be fun to take like a grizzly. As I'm just kind of like thinking through it right now. I don't know. I mean, kind of just like something here in North America. I mean, I think like a nice
Yeah.
big bull moose would be a lot of fun. What about you? What's your hunt if you had
For
no
unlimited funds.
yeah
Yeah, it would be gruesome. My father, my father and my grandfather both took at the same time. This was a really cool experience, and I don't know if I'll get to have this experience with my father, but they went to grizzly country in Alaska, and both harvested a grizzly bear together on the same hunt, father and son. And they drop you off in the middle of Alaska for 7 days, or I think it was 7 days, something like that. I put a whole video together. They recorded it all, and I made them a whole like movie on their experience. And they did this back in '08. I think that was when they went on this hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But they always told me and my family, my cousins growing up, the sign of a real hunter: take a grizzly bear in Alaska, get dropped off on the side of a mountain in a biplane, where if you don't make the drop site or the pickup site, you don't go home. And you're going to have wolves circle your tent. You're out there, there's nothing. And it is terrifying. So I'm like, all right, if that's a sign of the hardest hunt, what you think it means to be a hunter, my dream hunt is to take a grizzly bear in Alaska.
Yeah.
Now, if I had unlimited funds, because I don't think it would happen on the first go, it'd be a grizzly bear with a bow. That would be the ultimate hunt for me. Just getting that close.
Have you watched The Other Side, Donnie Vincent's? I mean, have you seen that, his film The Other Side?
No. I've seen the book. I've seen not Donnie Vincent. I've seen the Bush Tales one with Cameron Haynes, where he shot a grizzly bear with his.
Yeah,
that one, or Bush Dragon. Bush Dragon is the name of it. I'm gonna have to watch the Donnie Vincent one.
If your dream is taking a grizzly with a bow, you should watch that.
I'm gonna have to. I'm putting a note down for it.
Yeah, that one, and like things went wrong on his big grizzly.
Really?
And you could. I mean, he talks about it. I don't want to ruin it, but the other side is he goes and he hunts multiple bears, and in Alaska. I mean, he was kind of all over the place, and he kind of pieced them all together. But if that's your ultimate is going to and that's. I don't want to say that I'm only ever going to do archery hunting, but that's kind of where I got started. And my son and I are like, we're not going to hunt any other big game with a rifle or anything until we take stuff with our bow. Mm-hmm. And that was to start hunting with that. I don't know what we were thinking. I think it was just, being naive into how hard it is. But man, it's been a learning experience, and it's been a ton of fun. But
archery is one of those disciplines that it's. So I train jujitsu as well, and it's not overnight. It takes constant failure and minor tweaks just to get minor success. But those minor successes start building over time, and it just eventually get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm now touching within a half inch at 20 yards. I mean, that's how I started, where if I could get within a half inch of 2 arrows at 20 yards out of 4, when I started, I was tickled to death. I thought it was an amazing shot.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's where I've gotten, when it comes to archery for me, I honestly would feel comfortable letting the arrow rip at 80 yards. Like, wow. I mean, I shoot like I said, I mean, we talked a little bit about like Cam Hanes. Like Cam Hanes is what got watching him, and Joe Rogan and hearing all these guys that are starting to get into like archery hunting. I mean, he didn't get into archery hunting, but Cam was like, that's what he did. I mean, that's what he made his name. But you got like Joe Rogan, I think of like Jocko Willink, like these guys. I mean, they're like guys, right? Like jujitsu, all that fun stuff. You do difficult things. And when I started that, I'm going to become an expert with a bow. So yeah, I mean, we go up to our family cabin up at Bear Lake, and I go set my target out 120. I mean, I'm dropping them within, I mean, I don't know, probably like a 8-inch diameter. I mean, wow. I don't want to I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but if I get on an animal at like 70 yards, like I'm going to let it rip, and I'm going to feel very comfortable with where my arrow is going to place. Cause I do it from my knee Like when I practice shooting, I'll shoot from my knee. Like I'll draw back and I'll sit there for 2 minutes. And there's sometimes I go out and I take one shot for the day. But like I'll draw back and I'll hold for 2 minutes. And I'm not drawing like a heavy weight. I think it's like 70 pounds is my draw weight. But it's still a lot. But
Yeah.
that's the thing that I think people that are new to hunting, specifically archery, is when you're out shooting at a target, most of the time you're shooting down. And so you give
Right.
yourself like, if you have a target on the ground, you give yourself like terrible form. And so the guys down at Wild Arrow were really good that's our local pro shop here in Davis County. But they were really
Nice.
good about just telling me, hey, like practice shooting different angles. So like I'll stand up on the bed of my truck and I'll shoot down. And then I'll hang it up on something. I'm shooting from a knee. I'm shooting like, crouched, just trying different angles to just shoot. Because when you get out in the wilderness, it is you never have like a wide open shot. You're always like trying to like hook around a tree at some different angle. And so that would just be like my advice to anybody that's getting into archery is practice shooting. I mean, you can't shoot prone, but crouched, kneeling, leaning on something. And then the biggest thing I think for me, the advice that was, I can't remember where I had read it. It was probably like a post that Cam Haynes had talked about, but where he'll like go back and just draw back and just sit on it for like 2 minutes, be drawn back. Because a lot of times, like if you go to draw back, you may have a shot, but the animals move. They're constantly moving. And so if you have to like let it down, that movement can get you busted. So
Right.
I just try all sorts of different things to get myself comfortable with my bow. But yeah, I shoot every day. Like every day I'm shooting. Like I said, sometimes it's just one shot. Other times it's, 30 shots a day. But just get comfortable. If you're shooting a bow and you're going to take an animal and you want to try and do, like you said, like things go wrong in the wild, but give yourself the best chance to be able to have like a clean kill. And
Right.
and so the animal, I mean,
That's why I didn't.
nobody wants an animal to suffer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to have, I know with everything that I've done, when I finally start like taking animals, I'm going to gut shot something, or I'm going to hit it in the shoulder, or like whatever, something's going to go wrong. But I want to put myself in the best possible position to be able to have
Right.
like a clean, ethical kill, give myself the best chance to not have an animal suffer.
Right.
So that's just me. And I know there's other people that are just like, well, I'm going to smoke it wherever I can smoke it and we'll see what happens. But, and to each their own, but yeah, it's a hard thing for sure, but that's, yeah, kind of I went down a rabbit hole there, but
No, it was good. It's very important too, is that with the practicing every day. See, I started on consistent archery practice 2 years ago, and I took a deer. I don't know how, still to this day, I took my first deer with a bow. It was what is it called? It's not a Hoyt, not a Matthews. Bowtech. There you go. The
okay.
Bowtech Assassin. Yep. The original
Okay.
Bowtech Assassin came out. Yeah.
Okay.
And I shot a doe with it after only practicing maybe, I don't know, a handful of times at like 10 yards. I got lucky. Didn't even know about sighting in pins or distance. I just picked the top pin, said it's close enough. And this is when I was like, I don't know, 16, 15. And I took a deer. And my family doesn't do any archery. Like they never grew up doing archery and stuff like that. I grew up
Good.
on rifle. So all I did was shoot rifles long distance at 400, 500 yards and practicing at that. But archery, though, I've started to like on all YouTube taught. And that's how I've been learning. But man, I can't get like, I need to really work with someone to really analyze my form and work with everything because I'm good up to about 40 yards. I took a doe this year at 40 yards with my bow, but and I had a great shot. I mean, double lunged her. It was perfect, but I had a nice deer at 50 yards. I had a big buck at 60 that I really wish I was better at because I'm like, man, if I get to 60 broadside, open field, I would love to take it, but I'm not comfortable there yet, and I didn't want to take a rush shot. So I got to really work on my form.
Is that what
Yeah, I
you
think
think it
that's
is? Is your form? How tall are you?
5'8", a
5'8".
little shorter.
Okay. Yeah. I have so I guess my advantage, I'm 6'3", so
Mhm.
I've got long arms. So
Right.
for me, like when I'm at like full draw and I'm at about my grouping at 20, 30, 40 is wider than it is once I go over 40. Then it starts getting like tight, right? But for me, because my draw length where I settle in is kind of like at that 50-yard range. That's where I don't
Okay.
have a whole bunch of wobble. That's one of the things that I've learned is it kind of changes. There's certain things. So I'm
Mhm.
at an advantage for like those longer distances, like 40 to 6 or 50, 6, 40, 50, 60 yards.
Right.
I lose a lot of that wobble where I have to have strength to keep the pin on it. I'm just sitting in my more natural area. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm like this like genius. I just one of the advantages of being tall is your comfort range kind of
Right.
sits in, like I said, around that 50, 60. So yeah, there's we can talk offline. There's a guy that I could get you in touch with out here that
Mhm.
would be like he's a stud and could probably do a FaceTime with you and have you Cody Namor. The dude's like he goes back. He's like, hey, you're doing this wrong. Like he changed something that was like a big thing for me this year,
Mhm.
but all of a sudden my groupings are now. I mean, when I'm shooting at like 40 yards, like I'm like hitting like in the exact. I'm like a quarter. Like everything's at a quarter now at like
Wow.
40 yards.
Yeah.
So I
That
can I make a call.
I
You can send
appreciate
him
that.
some video. He'd be happy to critique you and say, hey, try this, and I think you'd see your range definitely increase, and you'd be comfortable with it for sure.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it's form, and then because I do post videos of me shooting and practicing, and because I wanted to see the progression myself. If I
Yeah,
recorded it, then I'm going to also see my progression. But I'm told I punch a lot, so I switched from a trigger release, which I thought I'd be more comfortable with because with long range shooting, I'm very comfortable with a trigger release. But I switched to a thumb release, and I don't know. I feel like it depends which bow I'm shooting with. I got a Matthews and a Hoyt, so I don't know if it's depending on the bow. One has a one has a kisser, one doesn't. One's 27 and a half inches. The other one's a 33-inch bow. I can't tell. I don't know what's comfortable yet because I'm not good enough. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
I haven't
I'm
even
able
tried like the thumb trigger yet, so like I don't even like that stresses me out. Like I've gotten really comfortable with just like the finger trigger,
right.
and I feel good with that. So I'm gonna stick with that for now. Um, like I said, I think
Mhm.
it's everyone has like their own personal preference, and I mean you can go down a lot of different rabbit holes in the hunting community. People have a lot of opinions. I don't have an opinion on it. If you're comfortable with it, do it, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I do know a lot of guys when they talk like if you bounce from different bow models, like even if it's like the same brand but a different model, like there's little variances, nuances that will change. So
Mm.
that if you're bouncing back and forth from that, I think it's hard to kind of just that's my
Dial.
personal opinion. It's hard for you to get dialed in on one if there because there could be like you said, like there could be little nuances where you do one thing on one bow and it shoots one way, and if you do it on the other, it can throw you way off. So I'm not an expert
Right.
by any means, but I'm just sharing with you things that I've been told. So
Sure. Yeah.
anyway,
And
well, enough. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it's bow archery now is kind of becoming a pay to play too. Like with these new peep sites, like Dialed Archery's Arxos. I
Mm-hmm.
got one of those, and it has been a game changer for shooting targets at distance. What the grouping may not be the best,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never been able to get past 40 yards in my life until now. And I'm able to touch. I can shoot it. I can hit my 80-yard target. I got out my back door. I can shoot up to 80 yards in my backyard, and I can hit 80 yards. It ain't in a bullseye, but I'm hitting an 80-yard target, and I'm like, I could have never done this before without these new sites like Spot Hog, Dialed Archery. They have it, but they're expensive. The pay to play is really changing the threshold of what
Yeah.
people can do in archery.
Yeah. How many are you doing? Like a 3-pin, like
I guess
on
single pin.
single pin? Yeah. I started with like, I'm colorblind too. So it's like, hey, like shoot this colored one. And I'm like, they all look the exact same to me.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So I had it for about 4 days, and I went down to Jeremiah and I was like, I hate this thing. And so he switched me over to a single pin
Yep.
Spout Hog, and I love it. And that definitely helps. That helps me. I think if someone's new, I like the single pin. I mean, they're super easy to adjust and quiet. It's not like the ones from even, a decade ago. So, I mean, it's a quick, and then once you get your ranges set up, it's quick to adjust. And now you've even got like the Garmin like Arrow, where it's like, you don't even have to like
Yeah.
move. You just put it on the target and it's like, here's your distance.
Yeah.
So I've wanted to try those. I've seen some guys use them, and some people really like them. Some people don't, but that would be one thing that I'm interested in trying, like moving forward, is that Garmin Arrow. It's Garmin, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's
Garmin.
the Garmin. Yeah. So
I think that's the one Rogan and Cam talked about in the last time they did a podcast together too. We're talking about the different laws, or maybe it was Ranella and Rogan talking about the different laws of states not allowing certain technology like that for hunting.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check one of those podcasts out, because I haven't had a chance to really dig into those lately. But yeah, Ranella was just on with Rogan last year. I have to go back and check that out. But anyway, hey, so shifting gears, it was fun getting into the gear talk a little bit and talking about that. But I want to chat a little bit about, I know you had some other hunts that we talked about. Is there one in particular you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about it'll be my biggest buck whitetail deer I've ever taken. And I think it's pretty interesting because I wasn't trying for it. So how it works in Tennessee hunting is there's archery season, and then it jumps right into muzzleloader season, and then directly into rifle season. And there's no, some states have like a grace period or a cool down period for the fields or the woods so that deer get a break. But in Tennessee, at least in the last couple of years, there's not been a break, like a cool down period. So tradition is every year my family comes and we hunt together. My grandfather, my cousins, my father, family, brother, we all hunt together. And what we've always done, because we never really did anything other than rifle up until about a couple of years ago, we go out the day before opening rifle and scout. I did that my whole life. But now that we all grown up, got muzzle loaders, and it's a little different now, we go out scouting, and it's still the last day of muzzleloader season. And my grandfather just got into town. He lives in Maryland, so he drove down to Tennessee. And, we were like, all right, let's do some scouting. My father's like, bring a muzzleloader. I'm like, why? We're just scouting. He said, bring a muzzleloader. You never know. I'm like, I'm in jeans and a sweatshirt. I'm not even in any hunting clothes. No, nothing. Like, we're just going to the farm. We're just going to go scout. He goes, just take it. You never know what might happen. You could see a coyote, something could pop out. All right. So we're sitting in opposite stands, and, we're just drinking coffee, having snacks. You're not hunting, just glassing. Over my left shoulder, so I'm sitting here facing, I think it would be south. Over my west shoulder, I know because of the camera directional, but out of my west shoulder, I hear crashing up in the woods behind me, and I'm like, all right, there's probably a deer moving. That's great. I look over, I see this doe come running out. I don't think much of it. She comes trotting out of the woods, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, there's a doe. Right behind it, within 10 seconds, big 10-point comes walking out of the woods, and he owned the place. And we nicknamed him because we had him on. Oh, he was strutting. He was in deep rut too. He was hot on the tail, but he came out like he owned the place. It was pretty cool. We knew about this deer already. We had him on trail camera, but I've only had him on trail camera at night, and I got pictures of him still from it. We only had him on camera at night, so I called him the king of the mountain just because where our farm is, it backs up to this. It's not really a mountain; it's a hill, but it's the tallest in the area. So, called king of the mountain because his antlers look like a crown sitting on his head.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting. It's like perfectly. He's not wide, but it's just the way it wraps. And I have it on my Instagram page. But he comes walking out, and I go, "Oh my goodness! I got to get my muzzleloader up. I didn't even put a cap in it yet." So I'm fiddling around, getting the window open of this blind, trying to line it up. And the deer's just walking down the hill. It has no idea I'm there. And I don't have a rangefinder with me. I hadn't put a cap in, so I'm fiddling, trying to put the cap in the muzzleloader. I don't got my backpack, nothing. I get the window open. I got it rested on there. I get the cap in, and I'm finding in the scope. Again, I don't know my distance. I don't have a rangefinder, so I just see it walking down this hill. And when you're hunting open fields, it's kind of challenging to judge distance because it doesn't seem like it's so far. And then you find out you add 50 yards, and that's really the true distance. So I think this deer is at like 100 yards. I pull back the hammer on it. I take my breath. I get real slow. I calm myself down. I don't look at the antlers anymore because I'm not trying to get buck fever. So I'm focused right on that shoulder. I squeeze the trigger, and all I see is smoke. It's a muzzleloader. But I don't see the deer anymore. And I'm like, okay, maybe I dropped it. My grandfather calls me and goes, "I saw it run." So he's sitting in a different stand opposite fields. So he's like 2 fields over from me, but he can see where I shot at, so he can see the deer too. But it's like, for him, 400 yards. So he sees it run, and I thought I dropped it. I couldn't tell, and just saw smoke. So we get out of the stand, and it's like right at dark. Like the sun's just starting to go down. We're like, oh boy, we better find it. We walk over to the spot. I don't see anything. No blood, no nothing. And I'm like, did I miss? I'm like, "Pat, did I miss?" He goes, No, it acted like it got hit. It had a kick up and everything. I'm like, all right, but there's no deer here and there's no blood. So we're looking around, and it's really getting dark. And I'm like, oh man, I find a pin drop size of blood. And I mean a pin drop. I don't know. Grace of God, I found it. I even saw it. Pin drop of blood. And I go, well, I hit it. We hit it. It's there. Oh man. So we go, all right, let's find this blood trail. So we're looking, and it's now dark, and we're, as close to the ground, finding pin drops of blood every 10 yards. And I'm like, this isn't good. I get about 60 yards because it ran from a field into the woods. I'm 60 yards in, and I'm like, the blood's not getting more. I'm just seeing pin drops, pin drops, pin drops. 45 minutes later, we're walking, and I go, there's a deer. The buck is sitting there on the ground with his head up looking at me. And I'm like, oh no, we got to back out of here. It must have been right at the end of its life because we back out. We give it another 20 minutes. We go in. Deer's dead. I barely nicked its liver. Barely. When we gutted it open, barely hit its liver. I shot it 150 yards. My gun was only set on, because the muzzleloader at 100 yards, got low, barely nicked it. And
wow,
I got lucky though. But I took my first deer. Why it's so special to me is I took my first deer of my grandfather, and I took my biggest deer of my grandfather. And that just means more to me than anything. The man who got me into taught me how to hunt.
That's such a cool story, man. Be able to do that. Yeah, that's way cool. Did he get anything? Did he end up getting anything?
Oh yeah. We're very blessed that this farm is, my live streams, I've live streamed my hunts this year during archery season. At a time, you'll see 80 to 100 deer throughout the entire sit. Like, very blessed to see lots of deer. And he took a nice 8-point. There's been a bunch of big bucks running around. I'm trying to get better with herd management to make sure that these bigger bucks, like, we're putting in rules now for people hunting. It's got to be at least at the ears or outside, 6-point or bigger type shoot on deer because they're just getting that size now.
Yeah.
But he took a nice 8-point during rifle season that year. Big old boy that's mounted at his house. So it's yeah, he's taken some nice deer over his years.
That's that's dope, man. That's fun. That's fun that you're able to have like such a cool experience with your grandfather to be able to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it's unique. It's not, but it also is unique too, because I mean, a lot of times as folks get a little bit older, it gets harder for grandparents to get out there and do that. But I think that's cool. I hope one day that I got like a grandson that's telling a story to somebody about that. I remember starting hunting with my grandpa, and I remember the last time that I went hunting with him. So anyway, that's super cool to make those types of memories. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
sharing that,
Yeah.
Nate. One other thing I wanted to talk about, we had touched on a little bit before, is you've started taking people out that are new to hunting,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Yes,
What
sir.
what what type? Tell me a little bit about that. What you're doing, like who you're taking, as far as like is it rifle? Is it archery? Share with the folks a little bit about that. And so I guess, is it mainly in Tennessee that you're doing that?
Yes. Yes. So
Okay.
it's only been in Tennessee, and
Okay.
I'm trying to
So
find a way to
for
do.
the folks in Tennessee, share with them what you're doing, and then we'll make sure that they know how to get a hold of you if they want you to take them out.
Yeah, DM me on Instagram. That's the best way to reach me. And yeah, just shoot me a message on Instagram. And I'm happy to answer questions and stuff like that in regards to, I go into gear and all that stuff. That's how I start with people is the first thing I tell them, if you want to get into hunting, take the hunter safety course. It's online. For most states, it is online. That is the very first thing you should do before ever thinking about buying gear, doing anything else. The very first thing you do, take the hunter safety course. Learn as much as you can about it. That's step one. And how I started is at jiu-jitsu. I got a buddy, Spencer Pruner. Shout out to Spencer. He doesn't live in Tennessee anymore. He moved for work, but before he had moved, he's a amateur MMA fighter, and we're just rolling and talking and stuff, getting to know each other. And he goes, "Yeah, I want to get into hunting." I go, "Well, hey, I know how to hunt. What do you like? Really want to get into hunting? Because some people say they do, but they don't really want to do the work because there's a lot of work
It's
involved."
the same with jujitsu, because some people say they want to do jujitsu. I
Yeah,
started training a year ago, and it's brutal, but yeah, it's like it's very there's a lot of parallels to hunting and
yes,
jujitsu, because
yes.
like once you start, it's like, oh, do I
They
really
don't.
want to do this?
Yeah. So that's why I kept asking, like, "Are you really want to do this? Like, it's going to be a lot of work." But he's one of those guys. I mean, you got to be a MMA fighter.
Yeah,
He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I'm like, "All right." I said, "Get your hunter safety course in." So he took it, and I'm like, "All right." And
he's serious.
yeah, yeah,
And just so people are aware too, like the hunter safety course is not something that you should feel like overwhelmed with. The
mhm.
majority of it is common sense,
Really, yeah,
which, as my dad used to always say, like there's nothing common, or yeah, there's nothing common about common sense. A lot of people forget about that, but yeah, I would just say, if someone's thinking they're getting into hunting and they hear, oh, I have to take this hunter safety course, they're like, ooh, it's not that bad. You can sit down and like hammer it out like in an afternoon or something like that. But most of it, it's it's hunter safety. The majority of it is on the safety side of things. So
yes.
yeah, don't, if you're thinking about getting into hunting and that seems overwhelming to you, little kids do it. So don't let it stress you out.
I took it at like 9 years old, and I got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I passed it. So
And
for
now you
9 year
can
old
do
kid,
it online.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Don't sample question for people. Do you point a gun at someone? No. They'll definitely ask you a question like that. You don't point guns at people. I mean, if you can answer common sense, that's how it goes. But he did that. So he took it, and I'm like, all right, here we go. He's into it. I'm like, you're going to have to get some gear. You're going to have to get like some type of hunting clothes because none of my stuff is going to fit you. He's too tall. He's just a bigger guy than me, more muscular. Like, you're not going to fit in my clothes. So I'd like, get some warm clothes. I don't care if it doesn't have to be camo. We're going to do rifle hunting. So he had already been shooting a bow. He bought a bow, and he'd been practicing already. And I'd shot archery with him a little bit already. So like it wasn't time for him to take him bow hunting yet. There's just a lot more that go involved with that. But I could see he's really into it. So I'm like, all right, you've shot your rifle, so we'll get that. You've been practicing with the rifle, and we'll take you hunting. So I said, I can guarantee you a doe. So we set it up. He came to the farm, and it was interesting because I'm like, how am I going to teach someone who'd never – because a lot of the stuff about hunting now is second nature in some sense to me, because I've done it for 17 years every year throughout the whole season. And I'm like, man, I got to teach them stuff like when you're going up, when you're getting into a tree stand, you're trying to be quiet. Now you have to whisper. Everything's slow movement, like you want to – everything's got to be slower. And you're listening for everything and you're looking for everything. You got to train your eye to look for movement. You're checking like I didn't realize to tell them you're looking at tree lines because that's where deer come out of. Like there's stuff like that. I'm like, we got to really work through this. You need binoculars. It's good to have a windicator. You need a headlamp. You need a knife. Honestly, you need an emergency first aid kit. I keep one in my hunting backpack just because you never know what might happen. You just never know. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of got into it, just started going through everything. So I kind of info dumped on him. A lot of it he learned. It's hunter safety course, most of it. The stuff they don't teach you about is like the art of hunting. They teach you how to be safe, but not the art of it. And I say art very relatively speaking because parts of it is art.
Again, it's like jujitsu. You can watch your instructor show you, here's how you do it. But until you actually do it, it's like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah. Armbar seems simple when you just watch someone do it until you're out there doing it. You're like, wait a minute. How do you swing that leg across the head? What do you mean pinch your knees together and pull back?
Yeah.
So that's
there. Like you said, there's the hunter safety side, and then there's like the practical application of it to set yourself up to be able to have success. So So you info dumped on him.
I did. I tried not to, but I'm like, man, there's a lot of stuff. Maybe if something will stick. If I tell him enough stuff, maybe something will stick. And what we got into it was the first time I took him hunting, he missed a deer. He missed a doe, unfortunately. But it was a good experience because he got nervous. He rushed a shot. He pulled the trigger. He didn't squeeze. And I had this on a YouTube video, and Spencer, you remember this. It is what it was. You had fun with it, and you were okay with me putting it out there. But, Spencer, he's a good guy, and he wanted it to see that, these are the mistakes that happen. But he learned from them, which is really interesting. I mean, because of being MMA and jiu-jitsu, he's a purple belt. He knows how to learn from his mistakes really well. Yeah. So he got after it. He really understood what he did, and he really learned from it. So the second time we went out, he was more prepared. He was – he was doing all the right stuff, even as little as like he didn't slam his car door, which we're at a farm where it didn't matter whether you slam your car door or not, like he just did those things.
You get into the zone. You kind of try to figure things out. And I think it's cool that he was willing to let you like share that video on YouTube, because a lot of times as you scroll through Instagram and look at the reels, you just see like the perfect shot placement. You see all the things that people that have been doing it their entire lives, and they make it look effortless. And to them, it is effortless. But to people that are new, there are people out there that are experienced hunters that make mistakes, and I think it's good that more and more people are sharing those, because it gives people that are new to the game an opportunity to learn and improve and try and limit the mistakes that they make. Because for me, like at the end of the day, like I want. Again, I kind of went on, went down like a rabbit hole earlier, is have a clean kill. Give yourself the best opportunity to hit the vitals so the animal suffers as least as possible. And if you do that, within 30 seconds to a minute, an animal can be dead. So, yeah. So I appreciate guys that are willing to share their mistakes. I haven't had anything to share because haven't let anything fire. I'm sure at some point that's going to happen, but that's cool that he was willing to let you put that out there.
Yeah, and we have. I recorded another video with another buddy of mine. He's not a new hunter; he's a long-time hunter. But we made a video of shooting his crossbow, trying to take 2 deer, and he missed both of them. And I'm like, do you want me not to put? He goes, put it out there. I haven't released it yet, but he wants people to see as well that even crossbow hunting, which people will say there's good mixed feelings on crossbow versus compound. People who use either or, but he says even with crossbow, where it's supposed to be like, oh, you just point it and pull the trigger as a bow hunter and you get a kill, it doesn't always happen, and it's just a testament to like there are a lot of mistakes that really go into hunting, and I think that's something that needs to be discussed more, especially for new hunters, and even like the experienced hunters really need to talk about the little nuances that go into hunting to show that these mistakes are very common, and you want to make them second nature to the point where you don't think about these mistakes anymore. Because a lot of it is now, for some people, second nature. They don't ever make those mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, what it boils down to, in my opinion, is just like boots on the ground, right? Like you have to get out in the field and just experience it, because you can watch all the YouTube videos you want to, but and that's been my experience, is I'm like, well, this is what I think the wind should do based on where we're at, and then it's like, nope, it's doing something entirely different, and this is what I think the animal's behavior should be. And, I was talking with Abe Salmon. I had a podcast with him, and that kid just puts like hours and hours and hours, like year round, into doing research and hunting. And he's out there and he understands the animal's patterns and behaviors and the characteristics, which is, again, something that is talked about in hunter safety. But yeah, there's no there's no substitution for real world application, being out there in the field,
right?
Stalking, like you said, going out, like just spotting, trying to figure out like what's happening where you're at.
I do that more than anything. More than I'm out in the field, I'll be sitting in a stand just watching deer more than hunting. And that's really where I think my hunting changed from being like just a guy who went out with a rifle and shot a deer during rifle season to someone who really is starting to, I would never say I'm a good hunter. I'm saying I'm getting good at hunting, even after all these years, is putting time in understanding how animals move, how nature works. And I think that's the biggest thing anyone could really do starting out for boots on the ground is actually get out there and just start scouting. Just sit in a field, sit next to a tree, and just sit there and learn how to be quiet, learn how to be patient. Because that's really hard to do in this day and age, is learn how to sit there without looking at your phone. You know how hard it is nowadays in general? Like I even notice myself, I'm starting to get hard.
I can tell you it's very hard.
Yeah.
Because it's like all of a sudden you're out in the wild and it's like, well, I could just pull out my phone, and there's some areas where you might have reception, but if you do that, you could miss something.
Yep.
You could miss an animal moving by. So yeah, I think that's great advice. Like if you go out, turn the phone off, put it in your pack, and only use it in case of an emergency, right? To be able to just like observe and enjoy the nature that God created too. I mean,
for sure.
There's like a peace and calm. There's like every time I go out, regardless of whether I've had even seen an animal or not, like I always come back like rejuvenated. It's just like I needed that.
Yes. You get caught up. I catch myself. I pray a lot when I'm in the tree stand, and I don't even realize. I end up because I'm not closing my eyes. I'm just watching. And I realize I'm just talking to God, just praying the whole time and just talking, and it's something that's a wholesome, makes you feel better. Just breathing fresh air, not being surrounded by all the stress. It's kind of like in jiu-jitsu, but in a different way. Like you can't think about anything but what you're doing. Where you're hunting, you're thinking about everything, but not at a stress level. It's more of a pure like gratefulness level. Like you're just appreciative of the moment,
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think that
lacks in society right now for sure.
Yeah. For the mental state for people hunting in general, get out in the nature. Even if you don't kill anything, just being able to sit out there and observe nature is a great start. And I mean, not having to kill something right away that's a skill in and of itself. It's easy to pull the trigger on the first thing you see.
Yep. Well, Nate, hey man, I've been super appreciative of your time. As we kind of wrap up here, I mean, we We've left a lot of really good tidbits along the way in this podcast. Is there anything else that maybe you'd want to leave with somebody that's maybe new to hunting, like something they could do that's going to lead them to have success and just get enjoyment out of the journey?
Sure, yeah. First would be take the hunter safety course. That would be most states, it's free. And then all you have to do is maybe pay for the card itself so you have it. But most states it's free. And that's a great way to really understand kind of the safety portion of hunting. Realize it's not some dangerous. The mountain really isn't that big in regards to starting. It's just getting out there, understanding the safety portion. And the second thing I would say is definitely start getting in the field. Find public land or private land that you may have access to. And don't be afraid to get a pair of binoculars. You don't have to get the most expensive or the nicest. Just get a pair of binoculars. Turn your phone off. Go sit in a field. Get in a tree stand. Just be outside and watch nature. Just start observing how it moves. Observe the flow. Because once you get immersed in it and you learn how to be quiet, sit in it, you understand how the animals start to operate. And you're able to appreciate it. And that just feeds all into hunting. So I'd say take the hunter safety course first, just because it's important to be safe. And then just start sitting out there and watching.
Awesome. Nate, hey, again, appreciate the time. For those of you that are in Tennessee, if you want to set up a time, maybe chat with Nate and go out, you can find him on Instagram at Southern Fold. And yeah, just hit him up. He's got great information. And he's a great hunter and even better guy, I've discovered here after getting to know him a little bit better today. So I appreciate your guys' time. Nate, thank you again. Yeah, stay safe out there and God bless.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Hey, I have a favor to ask. If you would and you enjoy this podcast, head on over to wherever you consume it and leave us a review. It's going to help us get this pumped out to more people that might be interested in hearing podcasts like this.